Why the United States quietly depends on South Africa's minerals. Right now, deep inside the supply chains of the United States, hidden beneath the surface of iPhones, electric vehicles, fighter jets, and even hospital equipment, there is a country most Americans rarely think about. In fact, if you asked the average person on the street to name America's most important trading partners, they'd likely say China, Canada, Mexico, or maybe Germany. But here's the quiet truth: without this one country, parts of America's clean energy plans, defense systems, and advanced manufacturing would struggle to function, not eventually, but right now. That country is South Africa. Not a superpower in the traditional sense. Not a headline grabber in Washington, but a quiet, indispensable anchor in the global resource chain. The four minerals. South Africa is the leading supplier of four critical minerals the United States depends on: platinum, chromium, palladium, and zirconium. Let those names sink in for a moment. These aren't rare gems or luxury metals. They are industrial oxygen. And as Washington searches for ways to reduce dependence on China, especially after years of supply chain disruptions and trade tensions, it is discovering something deeply unexpected. Africa is not at the edge of the global supply chain. Africa is at the center of it. For decades, Western maps placed Africa at the bottom, as if geography mirrored hierarchy. But look at any modern mineral flow chart, and you'll see lines converging on Johannesburg, Rustenburg, and the Bushveld Igneous Complex, one of the richest mineral deposits on Earth. The data Washington cannot ignore. According to data from the United States Geological Survey, the United States is heavily import-reliant for dozens of critical minerals essential to modern industry. For some of these minerals, there is no domestic production at all. Zero mining, zero refining, zero substitutes in sight. Among the most strategically important, South Africa stands out as the primary supplier of platinum, chromium, palladium, and zirconium. These minerals are not decorative resources. They are not interchangeable commodities. They sit at the absolute core of technologies shaping the future. Let me break down what each one actually does, because without this context, the numbers don't mean much. Platinum and palladium are vital for hydrogen fuel cells, a key pillar of America's clean hydrogen push, and for emissions control systems in nearly every gasoline and diesel vehicle on U.S. roads. Chromium is essential for stainless steel used in infrastructure, transportation, military equipment, and even surgical tools. Zirconium plays a critical, non-negotiable role in nuclear reactors, where it coats fuel rods, and in high-performance aerospace components. The implied truth. So let's be honest about what this means. Parts of the American industrial base, from clean energy to defense, begin in South African mines. Not in Silicon Valley, not in Washington, not in a policy memo. In South African mines, often more than 10,000 kilometers away. Think about that: a hydrogen-powered truck in California, a stealth jet in Nevada, a nuclear submarine in Connecticut. All of them, in some measurable way, start as ore dug from the earth in Mpumalanga or Limpopo. That is not symbolism. That is supply chain reality. Why this matters more in 2026. For years, discussions about critical minerals centered on China's dominance, especially in rare earth processing. China refines nearly 90% of the world's rare earths, and that hasn't changed. But as geopolitical tensions rise between the US and China, between the West and a more assertive global South, the United States and its allies are urgently trying to diversify supply chains away from over-reliance on any single country. This is where Africa, and particularly South Africa, becomes impossible to ignore. Because while China dominates processing, Africa holds many of the raw materials the world cannot substitute. You cannot create platinum in a lab. You cannot synthesize chromium. And South Africa is already deeply integrated into global supply systems, not as a future option, but as a current necessity. The shift happening now is not about discovering Africa's minerals. The shift is about recognizing how strategically important they have always been and how vulnerable the US has quietly become. A continental pattern emerges. And here's where the story gets even larger. In 2026, Australian mining company Lindian Resources secured $100 million to develop the Kangankunde Rare Earths Project in Malawi. This project contains high-grade deposits of dysprosium and terbium rare earth elements essential for electric vehicle magnets and wind turbines. What makes this significant is not just the minerals themselves, it's the financing model. The project is being developed debt-free, with future expansion planned from project cash flow rather than external borrowing. That's unusual. Most large mining projects take on massive loans from Western or Chinese banks, but here, the developers are choosing a different path, one that gives them more control. This signals a subtle but important shift in how mineral projects on the African continent are being structured. Malawi is joining a broader trend where African countries are becoming central to supply chain diversification, not as passive extractive zones, but as strategic nodes. From resource ownership to strategic leverage. For decades, many African countries exported raw minerals with limited bargaining power. The value was added elsewhere. The pricing was dictated elsewhere. The leverage was held elsewhere. But the global situation is changing. The United States needs alternative suppliers. Europe needs stable partners. China seeks to maintain its processing advantage. And all of them are looking toward the same regions, Southern and Eastern Africa. Because leverage does not come from simply owning resources. It comes from how essential those resources become to others. South Africa's platinum group metals are now central to hydrogen technology. Its chromium feeds global steel production. Its zirconium supports nuclear and aerospace industries. These are not optional markets. They are foundational. And for the first time, South African policymakers and mining executives are beginning to ask, what is that worth? Not just in dollars per ton, but in diplomatic influence, trade terms, and long-term partnerships. The quiet shift in global power. South Africa has mined these minerals for generations, more than a century in some cases. But for the first time, the world is viewing them not as ordinary commodities, but as strategic assets tied directly to energy security, industrial resilience, and national defense. As countries like Malawi enter the rare earth market, Africa's role in the global system is expanding. The minerals themselves have not changed. What has changed is how much the world now depends on them. And that dependence places countries like South Africa in a very different position than before. The question is no longer whether Africa has what the world needs. The question is how Africa chooses to use that position in the years ahead. Because in the race to secure the future of energy, technology, and defense, some of the most important starting points are not found in laboratories or factories. They are found deep in the ground of South Africa. This is Sal Pierce signing off from VlogND, where we work to uncover the true stories of Africa and the world. Thank you for watching. If this deep dive challenged your thinking and helped you see the complex forces shaping the African continent more clearly, please consider subscribing. It helps us continue this work and ensures you never miss what comes next. We truly appreciate your support.